My name is Jeremy Walton, and this is my one-year review of the RED Komodo. Let's go! It's been over a year since I bought my RED Komodo, and I wanted to chat about what it's been like to have this camera and my thoughts about selling it or upgrading it to another camera. I'm going to cover a few things that I think are important, and whether you're looking to buy a Komodo or any camera really, it's always good to look at someone's perspective about purchasing a camera. I want to start with the look this camera gets me. There's something about it I just love. When I set up a shot, it gives me something that other cameras don't. If you want to call it cinematic, be my guest. I can't because that really doesn't mean anything. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I've done a bunch of videos on that topic. Go have a look if you're interested. For the price, you're getting a camera that's being used on multi-million-dollar films. I think that says a lot. The latest video I covered was Extraction 2 that used the RED Komodo, and look at these images. It's great, and I don't think a client would ever complain about an image like that, let alone something you're shooting for social media, a short film, or an independent feature. We can also look at the film Devotion, which Academy Award-winning cinematographer Eric Messerschmidt chose the Komodo for the aerial photography. And these were some epic and fun shots to watch on the big screen. These two movies I mentioned, if you're wondering what the Komodo is capable of, are good examples of what it can really do. Now, you might say, well, they have huge budgets. That is true, but it's still the same camera. They may use different lenses, you can always rent lenses, and over the years more and more affordable lenses are making their rounds, so I wouldn't say it's all about the lenses. You might say, oh, it's the lighting. Well, not every scene uses a million lights. Some great sets I've been on used one light or just a few, so that's not always the case either. Not to mention, both the films I talked about had a way more expensive A camera. We're talking about the Alexa Mini LF and DXL2, and they were able to match the Komodo to those cameras. The difference is knowledge. If we're talking highlight roll-off, detail in the shadows, dynamic range, color shift, whatever, this all gets discussed. Knowing what a camera or sensor can or can't do and applying that to production and post-production can give you great results. Yes, there are a lot of variables, but hopefully you understand the point I'm trying to make. When talking about the Komodo, a camera like the C70 always seems to join the conversation, but when we talk about big budget feature films, not so much. Not saying it's a bad camera, it might fit your needs perfectly, and some of those needs are why documentaries tend to use Canon cameras and why Komodos are used more for features. One benefit of the Komodo, and something productions take full advantage of, and that's the Redcode RAW. Whether you're working alone or sending your stuff off to a post house, our 3D files are pretty standard and supported by the software we all use to edit and color grade. That really is a big plus. Let me show you something really quick on my computer. Just so you know, this is a 14-inch MacBook Pro, M2 chip, and 96 gigs of memory. Okay, in my timeline here I have a couple clips using my Komodo and my R3. This shot here of downtown LA with my Komodo has been graded, shot in 6K MQ, and when set to full resolution, I can hit play and get smooth playback. The second shot is with my R3, 6K RAW, ungraded, and when I hit play, not good. And you can see we're already dropping frames, but with the Komodo we get smooth playback. That's why I usually use proxies when I have a bunch of clips from different cameras, but when I'm just shooting with my Komodo, I'm good to go. All of this got me more into color grading because you have a lot more flexibility, and it makes it easier to match other cameras. There is a slight learning curve if you're just starting out, but if you've been doing this for a while, I think you'll catch on quickly. The Komodo also gives you a few different shooting modes that are all part of Redcode RAW. Actually, to show you this, let me bust out my Small HD Cine 7 monitor. You don't have to use this, but you combine it with Red Control and it steps everything up a notch. Alright, let's utilize the touchscreen, and we have ELQ, LQ, MQ, and HQ. So if you're shooting for the web or high-end visual effects, you're covered. You have a bunch more features you can access right at your fingertips, and it's something I use about 90% of the time. Comment below if you want to see a video about this setup. I use my Komodo alongside my Canon R3 for many reasons I've talked extensively about. Check out those videos for all the reasons why. Speaking of the R3 or any mirrorless camera, the RED Komodo takes a minute to start up and get up to temperature, and then you'll have to black shade. That might be something new for a lot of people looking to buy this camera. The R3 is ready to go at all times. A good example of this is when I was in Yellowstone and captured a bear running across the road. This happened in seconds. I turned on my camera, hit record, and autofocus kicked in, and I got the shot, at least the best I could. So I take my R3 with me on a lot of trips because it's great for photos and video on the fly. The Komodo, not so much. I feel like a lot of people want everything, or at least all their wants and needs, to be available in one camera for the cheapest price. That's just not gonna happen, and the sooner you realize that, the better. If we're talking pictures, autofocus, some run and gun situations, convenience, vlogging for sure, and on-camera audio, then I'm grabbing my R3 every time. Knowledge of what you need and what camera you're buying before making that purchase can only help you. I thought about my R3 purchase way before I bought my Komodo. Sometimes that's not possible, but remember to think ahead when buying gear. The size of the Komodo and the R3 are pretty comparable if the Komodo isn't fully rigged out, but at least you have that option. You might roll with a cage for the R3, you do you, but that's not why I'd be buying this camera. The Komodo can be stripped down or fully rigged out. Extraction and Devotion, among others, used it for its compact size. I travel a lot, so that was high up on my list. I have to be able to take this camera anywhere, and so far, that's been possible. If you want to use this camera for gimbal work or mount it to a car, or how about an airplane? You know, I really want to do that. Not sure how, but maybe one day. Then you need a camera without IBIS. Again, this is why it was heavily used on the set of Extraction 2. There were plenty of action scenes that required gimbal work, and you combine that with the form factor and you can see why the Komodo might be used over other cameras. The global shutter also plays a role in all of this. I think that's a pretty big selling point for people that buy this camera. It was a big reason for me. Whether the camera is sitting on a tripod or being whipped around, I have the option for both while still getting an amazing image. I know this is a one-year review video, but since I've covered a lot of other features on this camera, I want to really talk about my thoughts on purchasing a Komodo and if I'm going to sell it based on what's available today. I think that'll be more valuable for some people. If you've been looking at a Komodo, you may have noticed some people were worried because they saw some for sale. Don't even worry what others might be doing. I pay my bills and my Komodo helps me do that. Whether this person or that person sells their Komodo makes no difference in my business. It's nice to hear people's opinions or situations, but I picked this camera and put a great deal of time making that decision for my needs. No one else should determine that for you. If you think the C70 or a Sony FX6 fits your needs, then go for it. I really haven't talked about many downsides or the bad when it comes to my Komodo, but that's because I chose the right camera to fit my specific needs. If you do that, you really shouldn't have a lot of issues. I bought my R3 to fill in the gaps. I say that because I don't want you thinking I'm only praising the RED Komodo. I know what it can and can't do, and that's why I bought it. For this video, I wanted to cover things you might consider if you're choosing a camera, and these features really won me over in the last year. So, will I be selling my Komodo? Nope. If something were to drastically change in my business, then that's a different story. For now, my Komodo and R3 setup is a killer combo and I have a blast shooting with this setup. With the right tools, it can be a lot of fun. Well, there you have it, my one-year review of the RED Komodo. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button because there's definitely more on the way. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Leave a comment if you have questions. Until next time, it's a wrap.